ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
The LouieTeeNetwork is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be? For me, your man, Louie T, here for Thursday Night Football overtime. Ravens, Dolphins came straight over from my last stream, so I wasn't able to set up all the particulars and all the extracurriculars, scored, all that stuff in the corner. But I was able to watch the game simultaneously while streaming. And this was a one-sided beatdown by the Baltimore Ravens, tonight, 28-6. Sheer domination. Dolphins had their chances. I talked about this on the skill game earlier tonight when I talked about the Dolphins needing to get off to a fast start. I said, if I were the Dolphins, I'd take the ball first. That's not something that I advocate for. I'm big on getting the ball to start the second half. You don't know what the score is going to be. But in this particular case, your team isn't good enough to fall behind in a game and overcome adversity and win. You need to be front runners right now for your confidence in the from a psyche standpoint. And you can see this team unraveling with every turnover, every Ravens score. They kind of went worse and worse and deeper into the doldrums. Now, there were opportunities and plays that were there to be made. And I thought the Ollie Gordon, illegal block, low block, cut block, whatever, was a bogus call. He didn't even touch him. That hurt. That negated a big completion to Jalen Waddle and ultimately forced the Dolphins. I think they ended up having a punt on that possession. If not, they ended up with a field goal. Then I didn't love the decision to go for it on the 4th and 2 when they threw the fade, which wasn't even close. Take the field goal, cut it to 5-point lead at 14-9. Like, just give yourself a chance to stay in the game, even if they score another touchdown and go up 21-9. You're still a touchdown and a 2-point conversion away from this thing being 21-17. And if they score a field goal, now you're just down a touchdown. Like, it's like you just got to keep giving yourself a chance. But the Dolphins hurt themselves so many times tonight. And I knew we were going to see this. What did I tell you guys? I said they're going to hang around. And the Ravens are going to start slow in this game. And what did they do? They started slow. Lamar missed a wide open Rashad Bateman on the 3rd down again. It was a simple pass, but it was indicative of a guy who hadn't played in over a month. And so he skips an easy out route to him, and it's an incomplete pass, and they got a punt on the opening possession. And it was that slow start that I expected from them. And then the Dolphins turn around and they fumble the football on the ensuing possession, give it to the Ravens basically inside the Dolphins' 10-yard line. And from that point forward, that's all the Ravens needed. They just needed a jump start, and the defense jump started them offensively. And from that point on, Lamar got into a rhythm, and that was pretty much all she wrote. And the Dolphins couldn't get out of their own way, and the Ravens ended up having an outstanding night. Big-time night from Lamar Jackson. 4 touchdown passes for Lamar in his first game back from injury. He continues to show why he is one of them ones at the quarterback position. I just marvel at his ability to make things happen. And let's talk about the Ravens. Winning this game, getting to 3-5 on the season. That's 2 in a row for them now. They're going to win that division. I don't know if you've been paying attention to the AFC North at all. The Steelers had a chance to bury the entire division 2 Thursdays ago when they let Joe Flacco and that Bengals offense put up damn near 40 on them and beat them on a Thursday night. That was the beginning of the end of the Steelers. And I talked about it that night. I said the Steelers couldn't mess around and lose XYZ amount of games, and then the next time they play within the division, I want to say it was Cincinnati again. And I said that game could be for first place. Well, Cincinnati messed around and lost to the Jets. And so all the pieces are falling into place for Baltimore. You know, at the point that they're at, they just put your head down and just go, right? You figure out everything as you get there, but just put your head down and work, stack wins, and then come up for air and see where you are after, you know, a few more weeks. And I'm telling you right now, the Steelers had a chance. I think with that win, if they would have beaten Cincinnati, I think they would have been 5-1. I think they were 5-1 going into that game, and they ended up being 5-2 after that game. And they would have been 6-1 had they won. They lost. They were 5-2, but everybody else in the division was still 2-5. But if they had won, they would have been 6-1. The closest team in the division would have been 2-5. That would have been Baltimore, and you would have had this massive, sizable gap between you and the next closest team in the division, where you could afford to lose a game or two, and you'd still be fine. But now that gap has closed considerably. You lost again to Green Bay last week. Now you're 5-3. Here come the Ravens at 3-5. You still haven't played the Ravens at all this season, if I'm not mistaken. You haven't seen the Ravens. So they still have those 2 games and those 2 matchups to try to close the gap even further. And the Steelers still have tough matchups. If I'm not mistaken, they're playing the Colts this week. That's another game that they could easily lose. And all of a sudden, you're 5-4. And here come the Ravens. The Ravens are going to win this division. That's what it feels like to me. Feels like the Baltimore Ravens are going to come back, come off the beaten path, and steal this division right away from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it wouldn't shock anyone, I think, in the least if that takes place, because the Ravens are the best team in the division. I remember saying that when they got off to the 0-2 start. I remember saying, I don't care that they're 0-2. I don't care that they, were 1-2. I don't care that they were 1-3 after the loss to the Chiefs. It was Lamar Jackson getting hurt that made me think, this could be trouble. But I didn't care that they were 1-3. I said they're still the best team in that division. Once Joe Burrow went down, Cleveland doesn't have anything to offer on the offensive side of the football. Cincinnati doesn't have Joe Burrow back until at the earliest December. Who knows what their record will be by then. And the Steelers are still the Steelers. They can change quarterbacks. They can change receivers. It doesn't matter. They can change running backs. It's still the same damn Pittsburgh Steelers. And now, as I say that, the pass rush and the defense is worse. At least they used to get pressure. At least the defense used to be good for something. They can still force a turnover or two. You get the right Steelers, team on the right day. They can force 2 or 3 turnovers still. They're still good for that. But they allowed the Jets to light them up like a Christmas tree offensively. They allowed Cincinnati to light them up. The Green Bay Packers just lit them up. The Patriots moved the ball up and down the field, and if not for like 4 or 5 turnovers in that game, they would have lost to them. This defense isn't good right now in Pittsburgh. So when I look at the Ravens, they, to me, are the clear-cut best team in the AFC North. And it's only a matter of time before they hawk the Steelers down and take what I think they probably feel like is rightfully theirs. And it felt like the season was teetering on the brink there at 1-5. And that win last week that Snoop Huntley got against the Bears was massive. It allowed them to get that win without Lamar having to put his hamstring at risk. It allowed you to stay connected to the Steelers, get a game closer with them losing to Green Bay. And then it allowed Lamar to be able to come back and play free here on a Thursday night on a short week. You get this win, you get 10 days off after this W if you're in Baltimore. And now you feel real good going into this, second half of the season, sitting here at 3-5, knowing that this division is right there for the taking. This was impressive. Lamar getting the football to the tight ends tonight. Both Isaiah Likely and all 3 of the tight ends. Charlie Kohler scored a touchdown tonight. He had what's my man's name? Mark Andrews, 2 to him tonight. Isaiah Likely got active. He had 60 yards receiving. So it's like Lamar looked like Lamar tonight. Took him a little while to get going. Derrick Henry Over 100 yards. What did I tell you about Derrick Henry tonight? He's going to, like, magically, the run game's going to come back to life. Why? Because Lamar's out there. Everything is made better when you have one of these type quarterbacks under center. It just changes everything. And it went from an offense that could barely move the football, barely put it in the end zone, to an offense that was highly prolific tonight. They could have scored 40 tonight if they wanted to. They really could have. The defense forced turnovers, and you don't want to go too, overboard with, because I saw opportunities for Miami to really do damage against this defense tonight, and they're Miami. So they turned it over. They made mistakes. They had penalties that negated big plays. They did the Miami Dolphins thing. So I don't want to go too overboard with the defense. They only gave up 6 points. That looks great. But if you watch the game, Miami moved the football. But they just couldn't get out of their own way. So I'm still a little skeptical about this Ravens defense, because we saw what happened to them against Buffalo earlier in the season. Even though they dominated that game, they still gave it up at the end and gave up over 40 points in that game. We saw what happened against Detroit. They couldn't stop Detroit in that game on a Monday night. We saw what happened against the Chiefs in week 4. So we've seen this defense get gutted at times this season against the upper echelon. They hung in against the Rams a couple weeks back, but they couldn't do enough offensively. But I still think you can move the football and score on this Ravens defense. But it's good to see the turnovers being generated. That's huge for a defense that is still trying to figure out some things. This is not just only a dangerous team in the AFC North. They could ultimately become one of the most dangerous teams in the conference. This Bills Chiefs game on Sunday is going to be big, because I'm not sure about the Bills this year. And so Kansas City's getting their shit together. And I'm not sure that Baltimore isn't their chief competition in the conference. And if somehow Cincinnati can remain relevant until Burrow comes back, look out for them, because they always know how to play Kansas City. But I don't know if anybody's buying Indy quite yet. We'll see. They'll probably have to continue to make believers out of people all season long because of Daniel Jones. That Indianapolis situation feels a lot like Minnesota last year with Sam Darnold. Like, I see what you're doing. It's cute. It's nice, but I don't believe it, right? I don't believe you. You need more people. Feels like you get to the end of the season, and if they keep this up, they'll be, in the hunt for the number 1 overall seed. No, and I wouldn't be shocked if they come off, that bye if they were the number 1 seed and they lose in the divisional round. Like, no one would be shocked. That would be the Tennessee Titans of 2020, 2021. 21. That's the year that the Bengals went to the Super Bowl. So it would be the Titans of 2021 all over again. I don't think anybody would be shocked. No one saw the Titans being the number 1 seed in the AFC in 2021, and then they come off that bye and they lose to Cincinnati in the divisional round, right? Because Ryan Tannehill played like Ryan Tannehill. That's kind of what it feels like in Indy, but we'll see. This Ravens team, all I'm saying is that with the performance we saw tonight, which was to be expected, I think I had them winning this game. What did I say to you guys? 30-17, something like that. It wasn't that far off. I told you it was going to be a slow start. I told you the score wasn't going to be indicative of how dominant the Ravens were. I told you the score at one point would be 30-10, and the Dolphins was going to get like a late, garbage time touchdown to make it 30-17. But I thought they would, run away with this game, and they did. But they didn't give up points. They continued to force turnovers, forced 2 fumbles in this game, picked Tua off, 3 total turnovers forced by this Ravens defense. They were stingy, and the offense scored touchdowns, not field goals. And this was impressive. This is what you're supposed to do to a team like Miami. You don't play with your food. You put them away and you coast. And that's what the Ravens did tonight. And if Lamar stays healthy, and that's a big if, but if Lamar stays healthy, and I'm just going to assume that he does, this is a dangerous team in the AFC, and they're going to come back and win the AFC North. Derrick Henry back on track. No surprise, over 100 yards tonight. With Lamar Jackson back in the lineup. The tight ends come to life. All three of them were impactful in this game. Kohler with the touchdown, Mark Andrews with 2. The first game of the season that Isaiah Likely has more than 2 receptions. He was active in this game. The only guy that didn't really see the football, and we're going to talk about that here in a second, is Rashad Bateman. But they pretty much did what they wanted to do on the offensive side of the football. This was a dominant performance by the Ravens, 28-6. Second win in a row, their first 2-game win streak of the season, and they could get hot. They could catch fire. As a matter of fact, I'm actually interested to see what their upcoming schedule looks like. I know they actually showed that on the telecast tonight, but I'm actually interested in what the Ravens' upcoming schedule is. So they have the Vikings at the Vikings, at the Browns, home for the Jets. Like, they're going to win the next 2 games. They're going to be over 500. They're going to be 6-5 by the time they see the Bengals on a Sunday night in late November. That might be Thanksgiving night. It might be Thanksgiving night. They play the Bengals. Burrow won't be back yet, more likely than not. And then they get the Steelers the following week. They'll get 10 days off, and then they'll get the Steelers for the first time in the season. And that will probably be for first place, if they're not already in first place by the time those 2 teams meet on December the 7th. So I could see the Ravens winning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight games going into their matchup with the Steelers. At that point, if they win 6 straight, they would be 7-5 going into that game. I wouldn't be shocked if the Ravens finish this season. Just looking at their schedule, and it gets tougher. You know, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and Burrow could be back by the second Cincinnati game in Cincinnati on December 14th. We don't know if Burrow is even coming back. We'll see. Then you get the Patriots. That's going to be a tough game. They're playing with some confidence right now. And then you have at Green Bay, at Pittsburgh to finish out the season. So it gets tougher at the end, but they're going to have a chance to get their shit together. And I don't think they're going to mess it up like Pittsburgh and Cincinnati did. They're not going to lose to the Jets. The Ravens aren't losing to the Jets like Cincinnati just did. So big win for the Ravens. It feels like they've righted the ship and they've steadied that win last week was huge. It felt like that steadied the ship and set the stage for tonight to take place. And now I think you can see this Ravens team take off. On the other side of this, the Dolphins continue to just be a mess. Last week was a great win for them. They felt good. Tua had one of his best performances of his career last week against the Atlanta Falcons, threw 4 touchdown passes, was total control and in command of the offense. They look like a Dolphins team we had seen before, a different iteration, but they look like the Dolphins of old when Mike McDaniel had this thing humming and this offense scored 70 on the Broncos a couple of years ago. It felt like that on Sunday when they went to Atlanta, but they had a reality check tonight, a cold, hard dose of reality splashed into their face with the turnovers, with their inability to put the ball in the end zone. They got down there quite a few times, had to settle for field goals. Then McDaniel got tired of settling for field goals and decided we're going to go for it on 4th and 2. And you know, Tua is the definition of bottlenecking in the NFL. McDaniel is such a creative and dynamic play caller, and Tua limits severely what this offense can be. His, less than stellar arm, his inability to be consistently accurate with the ball. One of the things that used to make Tua such a problem in this offense in a good way was his ability to be pinpoint accurate, to allow guys to catch the football on a dead sprint with the speed that they have. That's deadly, right? But this year, it just isn't there. Guys are having to contort their bodies to adjust the footballs, jump in the air, take their feet up. Like, these guys are world-class athletes that can flat out fly. Don't make them take their feet off the ground. But Tua constantly has guys having to leap for footballs. He had Devin Achane down the sideline. That's a touchdown if he just lays it out in front of him. Instead, Devin Achane has to dive for the football. And it's not like a dive out in front. It's a like slow down for the ball, then kind of like dive for it type of deal. If he just leads them in stride, that's a touchdown with, Teddy Buchanan, trailing on the play. He's not catching Devin Achane in a dead sprint. So, Tua, he had, and again, this play wouldn't have counted, but he had Jalen Waddle down the sideline wide open, and Waddle kind of has to wait for the football, allows the safety to come over and hit him. But it didn't count anyway because of that bogus clipping penalty they called with that cut block outside of the tackle box. But he never touched him. The intent was to cut him, but it didn't happen. You can't call a penalty for intent. There actually has to be contact made, and that's why Ollie Gordon was snapping and getting into it with his coach, because he didn't even touch him. And so that was unfortunate, but that should have been a touchdown, and it wasn't because of Tua's inability to get the football out there. And he limits what this offense can be. This offense could be so much more, but it's a cap on what can be done in this offense because of Tua, and that's a shame. But ultimately, it is what it is. Like, this is what they signed up for. They gave Tua money to be their quarterback. I understand the logic of you deal with the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. You don't want to get rid of Tua and don't have anyone to replace him. It beats being one of these teams out here like Cleveland where you have no plan at the quarterback position, but Tua isn't good. Like, it sucks to just say it that bluntly, but that's the fact of the matter. Tua is a basic NFL quarterback. He's basic. And he almost threw a pick to Roquan Smith. It should have been picked out. What is he seeing? What are you looking at there, bro? Like, put some touch on that ball. Throw it over those players. Don't throw it right through them, which ultimately is right to them. But that's Tua for you. The defense, the score doesn't reflect how the defense played tonight. They gave up their fair share of plays. Don't get me wrong, but they were put in some tough spots tonight. You had the fumble. The first fumble put them in the toughest of tough spots. Like, that was the one turnover that put them in a really, really bad spot. You don't have to give up and you hear coaches say this, just because you have sudden change of possession and they've got great field position doesn't mean you have to give up a touchdown. That's true. They didn't have to give up a touchdown there, but they did. And, they couldn't stop the Ravens offense consistently enough. But the offense of the Dolphins didn't do them any favors. And, the defense wasn't good tonight either, but they were put in some tough spots too with some of the things that the Dolphins were doing. And it was a lot. It was very reminiscent, and so was the score, actually, of the Commanders-Chiefs game on Monday night, where the Dolphins had their chances early in this game. And it's not like how that game on Monday night was, where the Chiefs were turning it over and the Commanders got the football and moved it down the field and had chances, but the Ravens weren't turning it over, but the Dolphins offense had chances. You know what I mean? Like, they got down there 4 times, 2 field goals that they made. Matter of fact, they got down there 5 times because they made 2 field goals. They missed a field goal. They went for it on 4th down, and then they fumbled at the end. So they got down there 5 times. They were probably inside the Ravens' 20-yard line 3 or 4 times on the night and inside their 25, probably 5 times tonight. And they just couldn't find the end zone. And that's why I said what I said about the Ravens defense. Like, for as good of a performance as this was, you still gave some things up, and a better team might cash in on all of these opportunities. And this could have been a totally different ball game if you weren't playing the Dolphins, who struggled in the red zone without Darren Waller and then had some turnover issues in the game and really have all season. So if you're Miami, it sucks. You know, you can see the frustration on Mike McDaniel, you know, on the sideline with blowing up on the officials, and you can tell he's frustrated, man, because this is usually an even keel guy. He's one of these dudes that just super chill, you know, really doesn't have his feathers ruffled all that often, but he's been going through it this year, man. He's been going through it this year. And this was another rough performance for his group. After the big win last week, they probably thought they had a chance to build some momentum here, and they did the opposite. They went right back to what they were prior to the game last weekend against the Atlanta Falcons. So they're back to square one. What's their upcoming schedule look like? See what they look like. They have, yikes. They got the Bills next, then the Saints, so that's a winnable game. Then the Jets, that's a winnable game. They've already beaten. One of their 2 wins is against the Jets. Then the Steelers, then the Bengals. So yeah, it doesn't get much easier for them. I skipped the Commanders somewhere in there. I think they have the Bills, then the Commanders, then they have a bye week, and then they have the Saints after the bye. So that'll be 2 winnable games, the Commanders and the Saints. 2 games that they'll probably think that they have a chance to win. We'll see, but I don't anticipate them beating Buffalo next week. Really 3 games in a row. Like, they could beat the Commanders, come off the bye, beat the Saints, and then beat the Jets. You know, all of a sudden, you're 5-8. I mean, I don't think that's going to put you in a position to do anything, but you're 5-8 with 4 to go. Who knows? You get hot. Maybe you get to 9-8 and have a shot. No, not happening. This Dolphins team's a mess. They're a mess, but you know, we'll see what happens with the rest of their season. Doesn't sound like Mike McDaniel is getting fired either. Like, we keep hearing that Stephen Ross, the owner, wants to be patient here, and you know, there won't be any rash decisions. I think they like Mike McDaniel, and I think they want him to work in Miami. And they, like, again, I hate how this has gone for him, because last year was his first season not making the playoffs. The previous 2 years he had made the postseason. And this was a Dolphins team that hadn't made the playoffs, it felt like, in eons. So he'd come in and done something that they hadn't done. They just struggled in the playoffs. They get to the postseason and they get waxed in wild card weekend. And now, you know, this is the second year that they're not going to make the playoffs. Last year they were close. This year they won't be. And so I'd like to see him get another opportunity. It'd be great if he could upgrade the quarterback position, but he can't. And so he's probably stuck, to be honest with you. He's pretty much stuck with Tua. And it doesn't matter. You get rid of him, you bring somebody else in, they're not going to be more innovative and creative on offense than McDaniel, and you're not going to be able to do anything more than what he's done with Tua. So I don't think firing him is the answer if you can't get, you know, a better quarterback. And if you can get a better quarterback, then you should leave McDaniel there to see if he can maximize his offense with better quarterback play. It's a tough situation, I'll tell you that much. But in any event, let's get to the skill game, brought to you by Sleeper. We'll come back on the other side, get to any comments that may exist. If there's no supers, I'm just going to get out of here. And we can reconvene next time. But let's get to the skill game, brought to you by Sleeper.
The skill game brought to you by Sleeper.
All right. So Sleeper is a fantasy sports and real money gaming app that focuses on bringing people together through sports and gaming. Sleeper has become the fastest organically growing fantasy platform in the world with over 10 million active users in 2025. So if you haven't already downloaded the Sleeper app, what are you waiting on? This app is fantastic, and I'm enjoying myself on this app, but I would enjoy myself even more if I would win. And that is the only thing that is missing from my Sleeper experience is winning. I haven't won since week 1. And for the second night in a row, I thought I was going to win. I was sure of it. And somehow I have become the king of the last leg dead parlay. All right. It happened to me again tonight. But I'm pretty sure I gave somebody the game tonight and somebody walked away happy winning some money that I didn't get my hands on. I guarantee you somebody's like, hey, Louie, them picks hit. And I'm like, no, they didn't. Anyway, let's get that Sleeper app, download it, use my promo code LTN to get you 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. That's right, dollar for dollar match. You put in 50, they'll give you an additional 50. You put in 100, and I would advise you to just put 100 in because you can only take advantage of it once. So if they're gonna match your money, max it out. Put $100 in, and they'll give you an additional 100 to spend, and then that $200 should last you for a very long time. And if you win, it's gonna last you even longer, right? Then you can be smart. You can take some of it out. It's some of the safest and fastest withdrawals I've ever seen, right? It's very simple. And so you can win, take some out, leave a little bit in. And again, $10 goes a long way. Speaking of $10, you just download the app as a first-time user. Verify you are who you say you are. Make sure Sleeper is available in your state, available in over 25 states in the U.S. They're going to give you 20 free bucks. You don't have to deposit anything. You don't have to do anything just for being you and downloading the app. 20 free bucks. $20 can go a long way. And I'm going to show you that right now. But let's look at my ticket from tonight from this game. So as you can see, there's a lot of green here. I did a lot of things right, but it only takes one thing to F up a ticket, man. So frustrating. I stood to win $560 tonight with this $10 wager had I won, right? So Isaiah Likely, I said, hadn't had 3 catches in any game this season. I said, tonight's the night like Betty Wright. What did I tell you? So took the 2.5 receptions. He had 3 catches for 60 yards. Boom, done. Zay Flowers was on sale. I said, Zay always finds a way to get to that number. And I think the number was initially 64.5, 65. And they brought it down to 59.5. And so had it stayed where it originally was, which was like 64.5, 65.5, something like that, he would not have hit. But because they brought it down and they gave us a sale, I was like, I'm going to take Zay. I think he's going to get to 60 yards. He got to 64. Boom. That's a hit. Andrews, I told you, this is going to help me win here shortly. This new thing that I've found, maybe they were doing this the entire time. I haven't seen it, but this longest reception, longest rush thing, I'm going to kill this because I got a good feel for what these offenses do, what guys are capable of, and how these defenses play. So I knew Mark Andrews was going to be open. You know, Lamar's going to find him. That's his guy. And that he's going to have at least one reception over 16 yards. Well, he had a touchdown that was 20 yards long. So, boom, there's that, right? Devin Achane, longest rush needed to be 15 yards. I'm like, this Ravens defense has been giving up big yards. We watched the Detroit game together, right? We watched that game. We saw how the Lions had big runs from both their running backs. David Montgomery had a big 70-yard run or so in that game. Achane was going to rip off at least one run of 15 yards. He did. So 22-yard run was his longest of the game. Boom, hit that one. Andrews, I just knew he was going to score a touchdown. I didn't know he was going to score 2 touchdowns, but I knew he was going to score 1 touchdown in this game. And he scored the opening touchdown, and then he had the 20-yarder, which also doubled as my longest reception. So Andrews, boom, touchdown. Derrick Henry, I thought about going with him for a touchdown. I said no need to do that, right? Because, and remember, I was talking about Achane for a touchdown. I was like, it doesn't make sense. Achane scores every week. The multiplier was so low, it didn't help me. So I was like, get that out of here. I'm glad I did, because Achane did not score a touchdown tonight. But Henry, same thing, right? He scores a lot for the Ravens. They get down there, they give it to him. He didn't score on that opening possession. That would have been his opportunity to score a touchdown. They tried to give it to him. The Dolphins were ready for it. That forced them to have to throw the football on the 4th down. They went for it. They got it to Mark Andrews. So Henry never touched pay dirt tonight. But I did go with the longest rush. I said he's going to have a run of over 20 yards. Lamar's back. It's going to open things up for him. He's going to have a run of over 20 yards. And, of course, he had a run of 35 yards tonight. So I hit that one. And then the last leg of this parlay, of course, Rashad Bateman. Why call Bateman when you need Batman? Don't call Bateman when you need Batman. Rashad Bateman let me down tonight. It started with the first possession of the game when Lamar could have hit him on a simple out route. It was only going to net me 4 or 5 yards, 6 at the most. But I just needed that party to get started early, right? Just go ahead and get some yards on the board here. We'll come back to Bateman later. You know, I was hoping there would be just one big Bateman catch and just get it done and over with. It never happened, but he just needed 34 yards. That's it. I talked about maybe I should go with a Bateman touchdown. I said Lamar loves Andrews and Bateman down in the red zone. But I went with the Bateman yards because touchdowns risky, right? Bateman on the yards killed my ticket. This is like the 8th or 9th time I've lost a ticket because of one leg of the ticket. And I wasn't even greedy this time. I didn't even fill this thing up with picks. This was only 7. I didn't go crazy. I told y'all earlier during the skill game, I said, I love this ticket. I think this is a really good ticket. And I just couldn't get Bateman over 33.5 yards. I just needed him to be more than that. This is a great ticket I put together. I'm sick, bro. I'm sick, man. I'm sick, bro. I'm hurting, man. This is 2 nights in a row. The one last night was even worse because that was for $1,200. This one was for $560, but the one for last night was almost 13. It was 1,200. It was $1,290. So it was basically $1,300. I'm hurting, man. 2 nights in a row. I'm getting so close, but yet I'm still so far away. This isn't horseshoes. You don't get rewarded for coming close. So I feel like I'm always the bridesmaid. I'm never the bride. I'm never ever the one celebrating. Someone else is always celebrating because of the picks that I gave out. And they just leave off Bateman and add in something else. And like, oh man, I won $700. I won $1,000. And I'm like, hell yeah. But when is it my turn? When do I get to catch the bouquet? When is it my turn? Damn it, man. But I can't lie to you. This sleeper app is where it's at, man. A lot of fun, a lot of opportunities, man. One of these is going to go in my favor. It just wasn't tonight yet again. One leg off of a 7-leg same game ticket. Oh, well, I'll get them tomorrow in the NBA, I guess. So, as you can see, I've won $239.60 over the life of my sleeper experience. But that all came like in the first week of the NFL season. I haven't won since. That's like I always tell people the best thing you can do at the beginning is win. Like if you're a company and you have an app or something like that, the best thing to do is have someone win at the beginning because then they think, oh, this is easy. I can do it all the time. And then after that, they never win again, right? That's how you hook people. in Vegas. That's, let them win on the little slot machine. Let them win a little $30. Now you're like, oh shit, look, I won. And now they think they can win. It's easy, but it's not. And I'm coming so close, but your boy ain't winning. I gotta win, man. I'm hurting. I'm desperate for a win. It's coming. When I win, when I finally break through on the other side, watch, the hits are just gonna keep coming. I'm gonna be winning and winning and winning, but sheesh, I just need one. I feel like my favorite football team, the Commanders. If you could just get one win, it could start some shit. You just need one. I just need one. But if you're out there, use my promo code LTN to get you 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. So you can be something like me, but be better than me. As I tell the youth of America, don't be like me, be better than me. You can use my picks, alter it slightly, go get you some money. Seems like I'm helping everybody else get theirs. I need to get mine. It'll happen. Shout out to Sleeper for giving me the opportunity in any event. That's the skill game, brought to you by Sleeper.
The Skill Game, brought to you by Sleeper.
All right, so I don't see any comments here from a super chat standpoint. So I think we're just going to get out of here. I see a couple of hashtags. I guess we could just knock some of these out. Yeah. Mark Andrews is fine. I mean, that was big before the season started. The season started, you got to move on from that drop in the playoffs. Sheree, are the Ravens a serious contender again, or did they just beat a bad team? You got to beat bad teams if you are a contender. You got to beat bad teams. It's a part of the script. But you don't just eke by bad teams. You destroy them. That's what they did tonight. They looked like a well-oiled machine tonight. And if the Ravens had come into this game and been, instead of coming into this game at 2-5, they were 5-2, and they left this game at 6-2 instead of 3-5. And they did what they did tonight, will we be questioning, are the Ravens a good team, or will we just be saying, well, that's what good teams do to teams like the Dolphins? So I don't look at it any differently, right? They came in with all their stuff back, with Lamar Jackson back in the saddle, and most of their defensive players back from injury, which they got most of them back last week against Chicago, and they look like themselves, which is what you're supposed to do against a team like Miami. So yeah, they beat a bad team. That is correct. But they didn't just beat a bad team. They beat them up, which is what you're supposed to do. Which is what you're supposed to do. Sheree says, other than Tua, what do you think the main reasons are for why Miami collapsed in 2023 after a good season, as well as struggling last year and this year? They don't play well in cold weather. That's a fact. They don't play well in Buffalo. They didn't play well in the game against Kansas City. And I remember Tyreek Hill talking about how they got punked and how they were cold. Like, anytime you acknowledge the cold, that's a bad thing. But ultimately, teams kind of caught up with them a little bit. I think that's low-hanging fruit. I think that's an easy cop-out excuse. Oh, teams caught up with them. But when something's new, when McDaniel first came onto the scene, a lot of this motion and with Tyreek and all the speed, you couldn't replicate that. You know what I mean? Like, they first burst on the scene and they had all this motion and all, guys going this way and that way, and all this shit is happening and your head's spinning and you got all this speed. And then next thing you know, Tyreek Hill's catching a crosser and he's catching it at dead sprint, full speed. Waddle, same thing. And then they add Achane into the mix, and it's like they add Raheem Mostert, and it was just so much speed. It was so much going on, and it was new. Then you get the film, and then you see that you can start to slow this down. And then, Tua had the concussions, and then all of a sudden Tua's not as accurate. And now Tyreek Hill is hurt, and the defense isn't as good. And so you get all, they had injuries on that side of the football. Now the secondary isn't any good. And Their secondary wasn't good last year. And so there's a lot fundamentally wrong with the Dolphins. A lot of things are wrong with the Dolphins. But you always come back to the overarching theme of Tua isn't very good. So Ray Riz says, Lou, is it safe to say you were baited? Good one. Good one. Maybe I was. I was baited into thinking I had a shot tonight. Yeah, I'm going to sleep, man. I'm hurting right now. That one, this is the second night in a row that I thought I had a win. I really legitimately thought I had a win. I'm hurting, bro. I'm going to bed. Ah, that one stings. Anyway, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. Big win for the Baltimore Ravens as they destroy the Miami Dolphins 28-6. Lamar Jackson in his return, 4, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 touchdown tosses as they destroy the Dolphins 28-6, make it 2 in a row for them. And don't look now, but with a loss potentially coming up on Sunday to the Indianapolis Colts, they could just be a game and a half back of first place in the AFC North. Who would have thought when this team was at 1-5 and they looked helpless and lifeless? Who would have thought that a month later we'd be sitting here talking about them being just a game and a half out of first place? And they have a realistic, I just went over their schedule with you. They have a realistic shot of winning 6 in a row and getting to 7-5 before they even play the Steelers for the first time. At a bare minimum, they could win 5 in a row when they meet the Cincinnati Bengals. They have the Bengals twice in a 3-week span, sandwiched in between are the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's a crucial stretch as to who will win that division. That is going to be a very pivotal stretch because, again, I think the best team in this division played tonight in the Baltimore Ravens. But they got some very winnable games coming up on the schedule. And unlike Pittsburgh and unlike Cincinnati, who weren't able to take advantage of those games, they're going to clean these games up. You're going to look up, again, assuming health with Lamar Jackson. That is the most pivotal part of all of this. He's got to stay healthy. But assuming health, they're going to come back and win this division. We watched the best team in the AFC North tonight. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Thursday Night Football Overtime. Ravens improved to 3-5 with the 28-6 victory. Dolphins dropped to 2-7 on the season with the loss. And they continue to search for answers. And boy, they look rough. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, I'm your man Louie T signing off. God bless. Good night. Peace.